I think politics is imbued in nearly everybody. My first interaction with politics, I will say, was in the year 1982. In the year 1982, I was a student at Indiana State University. We had a very vibrant, very strong Nigerian Students Association of all Nigerians. At the time, Nigerian naira was more powerful than the dollar. So Nigeria was being looked upon, really. If I took 80 kobo, I could buy a dollar. And as at 1980, when I was going to the US, I could buy a dollar with 67, 68 kobo. But then the dollar actually went bad by the year 1982. But still it was roughly 80 kobo, 82 kobo, 83 kobo, somewhere there. So Nigeria was an extremely favored, powerful country in the US. As a result of that, Nigerian Students Union at Indiana State University was more powerful than any other students association. And then I contested for the position of a social secretary. And then we campaigned as if we were going to be the president of Nigeria. And after that period, then I started feeling the blood of politics inside me as well. So the next time was in the year 1994, when I was again living in the same US, and then we had northern Nigerians, from the 19 northern states living in the US, and we didn't have any association. We didn't have any way of getting in touch with every one of us. So we decided to form what we call Zumunta Association USA. So Zumunta Association of all northern Nigerians from the 19 states. So we knew each other, because of interaction. By the time we formed the association, it also became, because it was the only association, we had over 200 associations of Nigerians in the US, but only one was for northern Nigerians. That was the association. So you can imagine the heat and the contest. Everybody also won. So again, I participated for the second time in politics, still in the US. And I became the Secretary General. So the pioneer Secretary General of Zumunta Association was myself. 2 years later, in 1999, coincidentally, that was the same period I was getting ready to come to Nigeria, I became the second president of Zumunta Association. So by the time I left, we had chapters, or other smaller groups in every state, 22 states in the US, we had chapters. Because when I came back to Nigeria in the year 2000, I came straight and joined. I had a relationship with some of the top politicians in the country, and it became actually guilty by association. So I automatically found myself again in the center of politics. So I said that's what led me into contesting in the year 2006, to 2007. Nasarawa state is more of agrarian state. It's a state where agriculture is the base, of what is happening. Also the conflict that is constantly between the farmers and the headers. So many farm produce being destroyed because people were afraid to go to their farms to even harvest what they have farmed. It became so bad in some of those other places. Not necessarily the problem of Nasarawa, but because of the clashes in our neighboring states, we had influx of our people running away, and then by the time they come to use Nasarawa State, so Nasarawa State also became actually engulfed in some kind of crisis, especially around the border areas and all the border local government areas. So of course that is one area that there will be security. You see, when you mention security, people always look forward to provision of policemen, military, and the rest of that to ensure that happens. Which to somebody like me, I see it as normal, because if I give you a job as an accountant and you are just able to do your daily accounting function, you have not done anything extraordinary. You have to do something outside the box to prove that you are doing something different. So what are we doing different in security? Because the policemen are already in Nasarawa. So if there are crises, we ask the federal government, they will send more policemen. If it's above the police force, we can ask military. That's not the kind of security we are talking about here. The type of security we are talking about that we want to engage is one. Most of these people that we have in the state lack proper education. They don't understand their limits. Some of these people, if you look at them, they have forgotten about the foundation of how the country was being secured. In the past, you can go to so many villages, no matter how small the village is. You have traditional rulers, traditional council, and then you have traditional leaders in those villages. In towns, even in the cities, you have segments called Angwa this, Angwa that. So these days, people come in, they zoom in and they zoom out, and people, even the Mangwa doesn't know who actually came into his neighborhood. That's part of the security we're talking about. We have to return to basis. People who understand, if a visitor comes in, you understand what's this visitor coming to do, what is he about to do, how can he be, so that there is understanding and training of the direction that we are going. Then we look at what are we going to provide, the forces, how do we support them, how do we take their needs, because you can't just send a policeman and then you send him with tools that the criminal has more sophisticated tools than the policeman. So one thing that happens is the policeman runs away anytime there is danger. So if we are going to provide police force or any kind of security that is there, and it's the private security that we are also thinking about, not necessarily to give them arms to go and fight, but to give them the opportunities to train people so they can understand their role, to bring understanding between the fighting forces. This one fighting on this side, this one is doing that. To be able to provide them with what they need, so there is no need for fighting. You understand? Today, most of the fighting has been on land. Those who own the land to farm, they should be able to do their farming. Those who don't have the land to farm, they should be given options where there is opportunity for them to go and carry out their other activities. And a good example is what we do in one of the companies that I work for. It's a company actually planting cane. And as a result of that, we created routes where cows and cattle and the rest of that will follow. We needed the cows because it's a mutual benefit. We needed the cows to come and actually eat most of the trash and the grasses and everything along the line because we don't have any way of destroying it. But we need them also to give them access to the water where we are. And we have to give them some resting places and to ensure that they don't go into our own farms. So we don't leave it open and then do that. All that is part of the training, are part of the extras that we are trying to provide to ensure that there is peace, between the farmers and the headers. Today, if you go into towns, you see a lot of boys committing all kinds of crimes. You see a lot of people, small children on drugs due to lack of education. So recently, just in Kefi, the Kefi Development Foundation, came up with a program for rehabilitation of those that were already engaged in drugs and for training of those that are not necessarily engaged in drugs. And that's bring about my background, of this technical education. A lot of people, as I have mentioned to you, while in technical school, before graduation, most of those companies were not interested in you just furthering your education. They were interested in engaging the best students first. So they wanted to take the best students and employ them so they could hold on to them. And that way they will employ them. So that's what technical and vocational education does to you. We had a lot who didn't do as well as the best students and who couldn't get access into higher education. Those kind of people, we provide them with some kind of support through a tripartite agreement. A bank will give the facility. We can find other guarantors, for those facilities, so that they can go and set up small shops and be able to be self-employed and also engage some other people to work. So by the time you reduce unemployment, you also reduce criminality. In agriculture, we must go back to it, not only as Nasarawa State, but Nigeria as a whole. The reason is people are now beginning to understand that sooner or later, the need for petroleum and petroleum products will be less, and the demand for it will be less. And Nigeria, that gets roughly 90% of its revenue from oil, And Nasarawa State being a state that is getting also over 90% of its revenue from federation account, so we have to look for option. And the immediate option for Nasarawa is agriculture. So we must go into commercial agriculture. Not the type of agriculture that maybe you invite some foreigners that are just going to come and take some loans from bank and run away and leave you with debt. Not the kind of loans. We have to engage professional companies that we know are engaged in this, such as ADM, that are interested in coming in to be the ones who are even using their resources to do that. We should invite local companies that are looking into rice. Nigeria is a big rice consumer, but very little rice producer. However, with the current development of current program by the federal government, we have seen Nigeria now being almost self-sufficient in rice production this year. So Nasarawa State is left out. Nasarawa State should be talking about 20 to 30,000 hectares of land under rice. So Nasarawa should be able to produce enough commercial rice to satisfy Nasarawa State, Benue State, Plateau, and if possible FCT. We have River Niger coming also around Lokoja area. So both ways we are benefiting. But River Niger is very aggressive while River Benue is calm. So that's what rice wants. It wants calm water. That's why they situated that facility in Lukubi. But outside Lukubi all the way to Akwanaja is land that is available for rice. If you go to Awe itself, it's available for rice. If you go to total local government, there is a lot of rice availability of very sound soil for rice. So you can do that. Now, also Ken is one area that we can do that. Nasarawa State has a potential of one of the products that is very difficult to farm in the whole of Nigeria, and that is wheat. Wheat is actually imported today. 100% of wheat that Nigeria consumes in form of flour is imported, 100%. When we were looking for land for rice, we discovered some areas that have potentials, not much, but have potentials to produce wheat also. Because wheat doesn't like every other weather. That's why the US is one of the biggest producers of wheat today. But Nasarawa State is one option. So we have that. Tomato, Nasarawa State has the opportunity to do that. And so many other products. Of course, cassava is good also in Nasarawa State. So these are all the things that Nasarawa State can look into. The people need funding. So that's why we talk about commercial farming. So I had to continue mentioning Dangote so people don't misunderstand. But unfortunately, they are the only kind of people that have the type of resources, available resources that can invest. And they have already shown the example in the same Nasarawa State.